welcome.
Great to be at Amaze. This is, the place and the people and the spirit that really gives me more hope about the future of our species than a lot of the other stuff that's happening these days. I'm kind of new to this indie game dev scene world, but this is my favorite card of the tarot. So 3 years ago, I started my VR project. And I think this card is more reflective. It's also a very interesting card. I love, by the way, that you started, Owen, with the Fool as well. It was so awesome, synchronicities. So VR is a funny place, it's so much potential, and it's like this, nth iteration of it trying to break through and really kind of like reach its potential. Making indie in VR is even more of a sacrifice and a weird place of suspension between worlds, because you want to get your software tested, and the user base is much smaller and whatever. But VR is not just games, there's. I wanted to give a great shout out to Sam Watts of Make Real. These guys are doing interesting projects about teaching people how to work safely. So the corporate sector is interested in using this technology for good. Also, the biggest thank you to my partner Ted, who's here in the audience, and he has provided life support for me when I was jacked into VR for 3 years. So you have the patience of a saint, honey. I hope I won't be, I promise I won't be, stressing it again so much, hopefully. Ted has knowledge in ironworking. It's a very hands-on knowledge, and Gnosis is experiential knowledge in Greek. And this is from footage from my project, Gnosis, which is based, at the heart of it is a database, knowledge graph, a representation of knowledge and relationships. It's data which I mined from ConceptNet, which is a beautiful project, freely available semantic network designed to help computers understand the meanings of words that people use. That's in their own words. And I love sci-fi, and I decided to take a bit more of a sci-fi spin to this. So let's go into far future, into post-singularity spaces. The world is not what we know as it was. It has changed. I'm not in the business of getting in the way of your imagination, so I leave stuff open for the player, and that's what I like. So that's why I made it that way. Basically, I love open-ended movies and leaving a little bit of enigma. You have quite a lot to figure out the first time you get thrown into Gnosis, but that's the idea. There's no hand-holding, I'm sorry. Okay, now there's a tutorial mode which would help. One of the kind of more superficial things you will notice about Gnosis is that it's very pink and purple and stuff, I love the coincidence, actually, and I think it, I'll get into this color a bit more. Apparently, in my feed, I just learned that there's a meme called bisexual lighting, so all this cyberpunk, synthwave stuff is really, some kind of there's a message. Well, that's interesting, it's good that there's different theories and different dimensions to everything that we are in. This is from the official Pantone description of the color, so there's a lot going on about those purples and pinks. But this is a bit of a red herring, because in my world, I'm a dickhead, and that's the reason why there's pink in Gnosis. Because Philip K. Dick, I don't need to introduce him. He was a writer, a magnificent visionary sci-fi author who liked to cross boundaries between high and low culture. So pulp paperbacks about esoteric knowledge and philosophy, great stuff. I love it. And Let's meet with Phil in 1974 when he just had his 2 wisdom teeth extracted, and he was in a lot of pain, and he ordered some medication, some pain medication from the pharmacy. So that's what happened. And in the words of some scholars on Dick, because Dick is now like a topic that you can do a PhD in easily.
And the delivery woman showed up at the door with I imagine one of those neat folded stapled bags that came from pharmacies in the 1970s.
And he noticed the girl had a necklace with a fish symbol on it. He asked what it was, and she said it was a Christian symbol.
And when the light reflected off of that fish necklace, Dick describes in various terms being momentarily blinded by a flash of pink light, and he had the experience of what he'd later call anamnesis, or a deep remembering, that he suddenly remembered enormous amounts of information about the world.
That's right. So that further inspired him to start writing, and some of his most amazing books he wrote toward the end of his life. One is Valis, Vast Active Living Intelligence System, and this describes a extraterrestrial, cross-dimensional satellite entity, technology, ancient thing that just beamed information into the protagonist's head, because it's got a funny thing going there, that it's half autobiographical and half sci-fi. You can't really ever tell with Dick because he's a storyteller. So that's the reason for Gnosis, why it's so pink. A bag of cables, necessity for a traveling VJ. But I didn't need to use it because the organization here is so great. Everything was just ready there. Sound. This is the Automatrix. That's like a huge-ass Excel spreadsheet which shows relationships between 100 music stems by 5 different artists from all over the world. And I have populated the fields of that spreadsheet myself by hand, by listening to the different stems and different combinations and deciding how they all go to each other. I don't recommend that way of doing things, but it's allowed us to reach a very organic kind of feel. So every time you play the game, the music will be different. It's a mix done just for you. And I'll treat you to one of the tracks. It's track 16 on the album, which has just recently been mastered and will be released in 2 weeks' time or so. Every single of the 16 tracks is like a mini ritual. This is the enchanting Ana Maria Sosa Leitão, a dance activist, Portuguese dance activist working in Barcelona. This is from recordings which we did as a basis of Gnosis several years ago. This is basically what I started with, the music and the point cloud capture performance. And everything else grew from it organically. This isn't a project that was planned as a big master plan at the beginning. It's kind of evolved. Yeah, so personal angle story. When I told my father I was gay, he was like, maybe you should consider becoming a priest. Fuck that. So anyway, he didn't bring it up again anymore after seeing my reaction. But he's a great guy, and my parents have always been very supportive for me. And it's more I'm picking at the culture of Poland, which is very heavily driven by Catholic Church. This is just one particular instance of where ancient thought systems still have a big influence on our society, not necessarily always a good influence. I always find it interesting how church crowds, the religious crowd, they always adopt the audiovisual technology. Like, in medieval ages, used to have the organ sound, the psychedelic stained glass glass window to like put the awe, the fear of God into you. But there was always a psychedelic element. So, like, that's why counterculture, you know, like I think that space has been usurped, and we need to claim it back. Practical alchemy. So I started with Gnosis with a bit more angry mindset. I was just pissed off at the organized religion, not really taking a particular, thinking particular. It's a pattern. So in the beginning I was going to like maybe a bit more aggressive attack, but I think a good thing is the more mature approach and more actually fruitful is to take that anger and purify it and sublimate it and rise above the conflict from the muck and just beam yourself up above the whole stage and then fucking destroy them with a pink laser. Here's a little puzzle rebus for you. So anyway, I think, I still hope technology can be a tool which allows people to reach alignment. The old system, the emperor has no clothes.
Then came Marshall McLuhan in the 1950s. McLuhan said, in the Socratic sense, the medium is the message. The words you use, the modes of communication you use, determine the realities you inhabit. Most of our lives, most of us live in realities determined by others, imprinted in our brains by education, by religion, by politics, by the authorities. McLuhan said, if you want to change your mind, change the medium, change the words you use, change the mode of communication. If you change the medium, you change yourself, you change your society.
These words changed my life. There's more words here by my friend John Weinel, who I met at a public exhibition of Gnosis in London, at an event organized by VJ London. It's a great collective of makers. There's a similar vibration going on there. Also this pink gossamer network. I love the set design here, by the way. Just look at those light reflecting cracks. Like it's the mesh that is gonna like just unfold and descend on your brains and entangle with it and change it. So how do we create this technology? This is kind of my way of answering how to provide this fire hose implements that will just shoot knowledge right into your brain. How do you do it? You take a lot of information, like concept-net data set, relational data. Every point there is a knowledge node. Maybe it's a concept, maybe it's a name, maybe it's a philosophy, religion, and you assign relationships between those nodes. There's kind of at first it's a chaotic data set that has no organization. How do we present it in a way that gives us a bigger picture, that allows us to take some intuition from the data set? So, in force-directed graphs, you basically treat the system as a physical system, but like an analog computer. Every particle is like a molecule, and you have Coulomb laws, laws of repulsion. Basically every node in this cloud is being repelled by all the other ones. They try to get free from each other, they repulse. But the two nodes which have some link between them, they have an attraction force which balances out the repulsion forces, and the whole thing unfolds like a lotus flower. And what you see there is, it's not a new concept, of course. I'm sure you've heard of visual thesaurus. That's the kind of idea. So anyway, this is the physical simulation, and now go back to VR. And VR is a difficult platform because of the perceptual requirements, text specifications. You basically need to do everything fast enough in a 90 frames per second rate or bigger, because otherwise maybe people will start becoming queasy and have simulator sickness. So these are like pretty hard-coded limits. You really need to make sure that everything that happens in your game, and there's a lot happening with Gnosis because you've got the physics simulation, you've got the point cloud capture, which needs to play back, you've got the kinesthetic sensors from the player. Everything needs to track and be reacted upon, and you also have some database stuff going on like on the lines as well, and music playback, spatial sounds to keep you in the space, and so that's a lot. So a lot of what you can do with it is basically embrace the power of GPUs, of parallelized processing. So now we have GPUs are taking over even for general purpose applications. The difference in thinking between parallelized programming and normal CPU-based programming is that basically unleash all those little demons, little threads that all have the same single program in their brain, and it goes and just pursues its program, and you send this shockwave of computation through the system. It's like a war scenario. So every program that the little imp has, it needs to be simple, and there doesn't have to. There cannot be a lot of branching statements, stuff like that, because it would all confuse the process. It really needs to be like a explosion front going on. Even in some of the jargon for threading, you have that wave front or whatever. So I'm going to share a little bit of a trick. So on the left-hand side, you have the HLSL shader code at the heart of Gnosis. And basically, this is the program that every imp has in his mind, their mind. On the right-hand side is a C# Unity code, and all you need to kind of see there is the dispatch, compute forces dispatch. This is for the knowledge graph. Every node needs to know what forces are acting upon it. So this is really like the clue program there. So the dispatch on the C# side has like 4 parameters. The first one you don't care at the moment, but it allows you to create group of threads, which is basically like dispatches of those imps that go into like a line out. They can be different 3-dimensional structures. I'll just stick with the 1-dimensional. This is going to be easier. So we have 124 nodes in our graph system, and every 124 of the 124 nodes needs to know where are the other 124, so that it can calculate a sum of forces that tells you which direction you should go, because you're repulsed. And also, if there's a connection, you need to make sure that there's an attraction force applied. So inside the HLSL code, there is a non-thread declaration of a vector. This is also 1024. It's not going to be very clear to read here, but you have to trust the So here's a little graphical representation there. This army of imps is now this array. There's thread groups, and within every thread group is a number of threads executing. So let's be one of those little imps. Let's just embody one of the threads that's just doing this program on the left. And what it's doing, it's only checking out, because you cannot really do too much at one time. So the imp needs to look at its immediate neighborhood, do a sum of 4 neighborhood values, which are basically positions or whatever stuff you need to compute the forces. And it adds them up, and it saves them to its own little cell in the group shared memory. It's a shared memory that allows you to make sure that all the imps do something, and then wait until everybody else is done finishing that step. Okay, are we good? Are we synchronized? We can then check our notes and make our decision for the next step. So this is basically like a really handy trick if you've got something that doesn't really yield itself very good to this parallelized approach. In this case, okay, the second imp only looks at itself, its own value, and the 3 in front of him. And the last one kind of wraps around, that stuff gets added, and then the next step, after you've synchronized, the same imp now looks for imps in advance, because it has a kind of a knowledge of its own environment, so it asks the other guy. It's a hierarchical system built in. And like in the game, there's 1024 nodes, so it's 1 million forces that needs to be calculated 90 times per second, aside from all the other stuff that needs to happen. So at the end of it, in his own cell, he's got the sum of all the values of forces for its own thread group. Ding! And we have the vector now, which we can use in further steps, such as visualizing. And this was one of the mysteries of Gnosis. Rejoice, sisters, brothers, everyone. Gnosis is now available on Oculus Store. Receive the sacrament. Here's some Oculus Store keys, so take a grab of that. I have more coming up later as well. I'll leave you a chance to share it out, spread the word. I need the feedback as well. First day of my launch, first of all, it was a bit of unfortunate, but Oculus fessed up a little bit in the beginning, and they released it as free. And I'm charging €5 for it, which is more like I actually intended as a bit of a barrier to keep maybe people who are not that interested to not to maybe try to change the perception of it. Like I had some experiences, like there's a little bit of toxic culture going on as well to anything that is a bit more experimental and tries to do something. So just keep in mind also when you work on your own projects. Any questions? Maybe we can take a few.
Dziękuję, thank you. So we have a few minutes for questions. If you have any questions, can you please go to that microphone? Of course, you're welcome just to enjoy the music. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have a question. There's a question.
Okay.
So, I'm really interested.
A question for a question.
I'm really interested in the capacity of virtual reality and the intersection of VR and ritual.
Yeah.
Do you see that as something that you're doing? And what other rituals would you like to see, or
Yeah.
would you like to be experienced?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's the liminal space. It's the place where you need to put people in a place where they are more receptive to the information, the content that you're giving, and hopefully this is good content and stuff that will somehow change society for the better. So I think ritual is a tool to do that. And the methods that Timothy Leary said in his small speech there, he was actually quoting Marshall McLuhan. So that's all about the medium. So this is a new medium. It has incredible power to provide sense information, multimodal sense information that works together synergetically. It just allows you to take the user from the everyday space and take it to a place higher, cognitively, spiritually. So that's what I'd like to see more as well. I think your project Deep is a very good example of that. It's even more spiritual. Mine is a bit more cerebral, maybe. So thanks for the question.